Do we have time in our very busy, our very full lives to listen to someone when they're in need? How often do we tell a suffering friend, if you need me, call me. If you need anything, just let me know. I'll be there. Do they call? Do they tell? No. Why? Because so often they can't even put words to their suffering, shattered world. So will you take a few moments to watch this and share this information? This is about our family and our friends in South Louisiana who are suffering and will continue to suffer for a very long time from the effects of Hurricane Ida, which was just at the end of August 2021, just about 7 or 8 weeks ago. And some of them, like our beloved brother-in-law, Ro Petrie, he didn't make it. The stress was too much. But his family and his community are left to pick up the shattered pieces under unbelievable circumstances, which you'll see in the upcoming video. He is actually the driver in the first video, in the first car video, when they're going back to see the devastation immediately after the hurricane. And then after his passing, and these 6 or 7 weeks later, it's my sister going back and looking at the community. What do they need? They need hope, love. They need a helping hand. They need you and me to know what they're going through, to know that this is happening in our country. This is not some third world country. This is in our country. People think because New Orleans survived well, even though it had a lot of devastation, that it's all over. It's not all over. For thousands, it's not all over. So they need you and me to know. They need us to care. They need us to show up for them, to show up for them in some way. And really, isn't that the purpose of life? To love one another, to care for each other. But many times that caring means we have to take some sort of an action. Please watch the video and share it. On August 29, 2021, Hurricane Ida made a direct hit on South Louisiana with sustainable winds of over 150 miles per hour for 9 hours. And in some locations, the winds were clocked at over 200 miles an hour. Unlike other hurricanes that move quickly over land, this one came and it sat and it devastated. Beyond any hurricane ever reported, the winds were beyond any hurricane ever reported. There were 486,000 homes and businesses without electricity or running water for many, many weeks, and some of those people are still living in these conditions. Some people are still living in tents. Almost everybody has tarps on their roofs. All food was lost. In this car my brother-in-law is driving, he has since been deceased. Okay, from the stress, we believe, of the hurricane, this is where generations of his family were raised and lived, and it is absolutely like a third world country. And it continues. This is October of 2021, and you will see the video at the end where my sister is now taking the ride without her beloved husband who has passed on, and you will see that the devastation has continued. The temperatures are in the 90s. Many people still don't have a place to live, or they're living in the cars, they're buying tents. At Ro's funeral, Ro died on September the 15th, and they weren't even here he is right here, Ro Petrie. They weren't able to stay at their home, so they were staying in northern Louisiana at a friend's cabin. And his graveside burial was on September the 23rd. We couldn't have a wake or a funeral because look at the church. This is the church grounds. Most of the buildings are destroyed. There was only one building that was still usable. But they had 25 more bodies to bury. And as of this day, actually, there were 40 people waiting to be buried. No flowers, no florist, no electricity. This is what our people and our family are facing. This is the conditions under which they are burying their dead, that we are burying our dead. This is what their yards look like, which they had to go back to. You can say, well, get a bulldozer and clean it up. Do you have gas? Do you have gasoline? Little by little, things like that
hometown
happening.
of Galliano, Louisiana. I hadn't come this far south since I returned, and the devastation is unbelievable, which I already knew. Both sides of the bayou, both sides of the road. Incredible devastation. It's not even looking down the road. This is strictly the debris that's piled up on the highway. Beloved Galliano food store. Across the bayou. It's just as terrible. Not much of a camera person.
So what can we do? Number one, be in awareness. We can't heal anything that's hidden. We have to know what's going on. So people can come to help. There are many, many houses that need to literally be mucked out before the mold and the mildew completely take over the structure. Sure, there are organizations there helping with that, but there's not enough. So if you've got a truck and some supplies and some friends, go down for the day and help. Financial support. Now, Community Bible Church is my sister's church in Cutoff, Louisiana, Community Bible Church, and they're acting as the a coordinator for the whole community to get the resources out. I'm sure there are other great organizations. If you can't find one, certainly check with Community Bible Church, and we have the information on the screen at the very end. The volunteers who go to New Orleans who go to help have to stay an hour and a half away in New Orleans because there's no hotel rooms. Can you imagine? All this time later, months later, and there aren't hotel rooms for them to stay in. So perhaps you have an RV or a camper or something like that that's just sitting in your driveway and not doing anything, and you'd be willing for either the volunteers or the displaced families to have some time while they try to repair their homes. One thing people in Louisiana do have is property, and so there would be a place to park that RV or to park that camper. That's another way. There are so many people don't have homeowners insurance, or if they had homeowners insurance, they don't have the money for the deductible because the category. The hurricane was categorized as a category 4, not 5. It should have been categorized as a 5, and then the insurance company, because it truly was a 5, and then the insurance companies would have to pay 100% of the damages. So even people who had insurance don't necessarily have the money for their deductible, and then some of them just don't have the money to rebuild. So anything that you can do, if you got a nail and hammers and some friends, maybe get down there and help. There are over 200 employees of the hospital now that have no income because the hospital is shut down. So there are many ways to help. Of course, we know prayer and good intentions make a big difference. We want to see these communities whole and complete and coming together. We want to visualize them as having made it and being bigger and stronger than ever before. But most of these people have lived down there, and their families have lived there for generations, and many of them have lost hope that there's any chance of life ever feeling quote unquote normal again. So keep them in your prayers, but most of all, or in addition, do something. Thank you.